Yeah, live and direct, Fabian Perspectv. Let's get right into it. The New York Knicks are a favorable team this year to ESPN. They have 5 players that are above Russell Westbrook in the top 100 ESPN players, NBA players. You got Josh Hart, IQ, Emmanuel Quickley, Julius Randle, and Jaylen Brunson. They actually don't have Mitchell Robinson in the top 93. He was number 100. So RJ Barrett's not in the top 100. And you guys keep trying to convince me that RJ Barrett is great, and nobody thinks he's as good as Josh Hart or Emmanuel Quickly. I don't either. I think all these guys are way more effective than he is. Different story for a different day. You got guys in the media like Frank Isola, who's a nice guy. I met him at the Barclays Center. Very dope dude. He let me know that he figured out that me and my brother were actually Dominican because his wife is Puerto Rican. And he was like, "You guys are Dominican." And we're like, "Where? How you know?" He's like, "My wife is Puerto Rican, and I could tell the difference." I'm like, "I'm kind of Americanized, but thank you for letting for pointing that out, Frank, or knowing." But he had this to say about Tom Thibodeau and the New York Knicks. Every time the Knicks pay you, every time the Knicks play, you go on Twitter and Tom's trending, criticized more than any other coach. I know there are fans who pay attention, passionate, follow it, and study it. Believe me when I tell you, he knows 2 times as much as you do, which is cool. And then he played, here's the video.
Every time the Knicks play, you go on Twitter and Tom is trending. Everyone, Tom gets criticized more than any other coach, and I don't know how you can argue with the results when you look at the overall roster. Tom is about basketball, and he knows more about the Knicks and every player in that roster than anybody else knows. And I get it. I know that there are fans that pay attention. They're passionate. They follow it. They study it. Believe me when I tell you, he knows twice as much as you do. I know you may think you do, but you don't. The guy is locked in. He's married to basketball. He watches film. He studies things. He's pretty plugged in, not only to his team, but the other 29 teams as well.
All right. So that's what he had to say about Tom Thibodeau. Frank Isola, those are his statements about Tom Thibodeau, the head coach for the New York Knicks. And I got to second that part where you can tell people respect him. The players, the way they talk about him in a press conference, there's a real respect. You can tell when somebody respects another person. And we've seen so many players of this era totally disregard and really disrespect their head coaches. We've seen LeBron disrespect Eric Spoelstra the first season of the game, where it felt like disrespect. Because disrespect is a word that's just totally overused in this era, in this generation, the internet. This just de-evolution or evolution of human beings that we are today, right? We've seen LeBron do that. We've seen just coaches being belittled in public. We've seen Dwight Howard go at Stan Van Gundy. We've heard about Shaq disrespecting Stan Van Gundy, real disrespect. And we don't see that with Pat Riley, though. We don't see that with Phil Jackson, except if you're, LeBron and Phil Jackson's the general manager and you're just swinging your, what around pause to show your power and to show that I got more power than Phil Jackson, right? At this stage, Phil Jackson is not respected by anybody, maybe, but all time, Jerry West might not respect him. But the point is, you can tell when there isn't respect for someone in the NBA when there is. And for me, I've always recognized that with Tom Thibodeau. To say that he knows more basketball than me as a fan, I really don't care. Like, how is that an endorsement or a point of view that's persuasive or convincing enough to tell me that he's reading these lineups correctly? Like, if you are watching that much basketball, you are too close to the fire, pun intended. Right? I think it is tough to be in the mix and be a coach and be whoever it is in the game, have a game plan, go in there and you have to perform. You have to perform. And with New York City, it's way different. New York has been Twitter since the inception of sports, right? Like, we're very demanding. I mean, when all the gambling was going on, even in the 60s, we had gambling here. They're not going to tell you that publicly, but that's who made up the Garden. Bunch of gamblers in the crowd. It wasn't much of a family oriented crowd. So it's always been hard here. And for Thibodeau, I get it. You want to defend him as far as respect his basketball mind. I mean, he also won a ring with the Boston Celtics in 2008 with Doc Rivers as the head coach, but he's the mastermind behind the defense. He's part of the reason why they play defense the way they do now. We get that. We get all of that. But what does him knowing more basketball than me have to do with the fact that, hey, you may have ran Derrick Rose to the ground. You may be running Julius Randle to the ground. You may be running all of your players to the ground. I'm glad we got DiVincenzo and we added another player to rotate in this pretty deep lineup. DiVincenzo, Hart, IQ, Barrett, Brunson, of course. They're all going to be on the perimeter and they can run around. You know, a lot of these lineups are going to be real interesting. Grimes, very interesting. And you know, I'm not falling for that. Everyone has a great relationship with whoever, and that's cool, bro. You love Tom Thibodeau's mind. The players do also. But at a certain point, I would never argue I know more more basketball than Stan Van Gundy. But he's clearly not respected. And he lost his job several times. So that has nothing to do with executing the game plan. You know, they got their mob style general manager, front office, and coach relationship. I think that's a great thing because you never want to, you know, Pat Riley did that with Spoelstra, right? Like you want to respect that guy. So I appreciate all of that. They're getting what they wanted. As much as we criticize Leon Rose and them as well, I think the number one thing that I can't criticize them for is, you know, these are all NBA type players in Julius Randle and Jaylen Brunson, and they're severely underpaid compared to what they could get. So they're believing in the system. You know, they're believing in the new Knick culture, which is what the you know, ESPN and Zach Lowe and these guys are talking about now, with having, you know, the Knicks become the new team. They're in vogue, right? I see people talking about ESPN really loves the Knicks, which is interesting because they weren't liked before. The last 20 years, imagine the last 20 years, the Sacramento Kings and the New York Knicks. Talk about like how tough it is to be a fan. Come on now. Right, let's take a look at this. The commercial rock. I'm a fan of the Knicks and the Kings in the last 20 years. They've come around to the point where I can root for Jaylen Brunson. That's another thing that's not talked about. For us to get a player that they believe in and now we believe in, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. It's not just about the winning. I always shout out to Dime. I always talk about that. You know, it's great to have players that are going to help you win, but some of these players that'll help you win, you know, I'm sorry, like LeBron is the epitome of the best, the greatest in the game, right? Like he just at all facets, he's just that powerful. But I'm not sure if I'd have been so happy rooting for him. You know, if I'm a Miami Heat fan or a Cleveland Cavaliers fan. For me, you know, in real life, they say money isn't everything, right? Those rings aren't everything. They're just not. I know that's what got Dame Lillard to go to the Bucks, but I'd rather be able to root for my team this way. Because if we buy a championship, it's never gonna feel right. It's never gonna feel right. I was a New York Giants fan my whole life. When Strahan took those I think it was 4 weeks off in the beginning of the season, and he comes back and he shows and proves why he needed those 4 weeks off, and we win a championship. You know, there's a lot to that. There were years where they were losing, and once they went to the championship against the Baltimore Ravens, they built that defense up. Keith Hamilton, you know, the Eli Manning, the ups and downs that we went through with him as a fan, right? We didn't believe in him, and he showed improvement in the playoffs. So when you have a guy like that just comes out of nowhere and you can root for that it changes everything. It's different than just plugging in a bunch of players together. That to me is tougher to root for. Of course, I want the Knicks to win, but I'd rather just be able to root for it, man. And I'm sincerely able to do that now. So I just, how can I complain about that? Let's check out this video with Zach Lowe, who's a major Knicks fan. He used to work for the New York Times, if I'm not mistaken. He used to be on Grantland also with Bill Simmons.
York Times this week, the owner I don't like a baseball or soccer team, but while the Knicks and Rangers are, quote, near and dear to my heart, I really don't like owning sports teams, calling the economics of Major League Sports kind of sleepy, and he ruled out that option. So Dolan also went on to say that, quote, being a professional sports owner in New York, you're not beloved until you're dead. So, Zach, you're kind of New Yorker-ish, suburban now, New York. Wait. Let's comfort the until you're dead.
First of all, I'm so sad for James Dolan that he's not beloved and isn't enjoying being a billionaire who controls major portions of New York City. I'm very sad.
You want a tissue?
Sounds like Cavaliers. They competed hard against Miami in the second round. If I'm a Knicks optimist, Philadelphia, they're a mess. Milwaukee, facing some pressure. Boston, got to reinvent themselves around Kristaps Porzingis, some injury-prone guys. Miami still doesn't have Damian Lillard. They got Miami. They got hashtag Heat culture, Jimmy Butler and Bama. They don't have Damian Lillard yet. Why not? Why can't we wake up in May and the New York Knicks are in the conference finals? Maybe not the finals. That might be a little much. But why not the conference finals? This is a good, deep team, well coached. They're going to grind defensively. The big obstacle for the playoffs, though, assuming they get back, is Julius Randle's got to play better. He's 34% from the field career for the playoffs. He's been twice. He shot poorly both times. That's the next level for him and them. But title, finals, that's a little much.
I'm sorry.
They got picks galore.
Those
I mean, he's saying the same thing I am, right? About the Knicks and Julius Randle. And that's the glaring issue also. But again, for me, it's just that they're having fun. And the running joke is like there's always this thing with the New York Knicks fans, like we're crazy. We're crazy to have, to even think something like this, to believe that we were gonna win. So, I get that, but it's great to see this. I want to hear what Windhorse has to say. Because it's better to be part of like the butt of a joke, and there's optimism, like there's true light at the end of the tunnel.
Us to clip off that mobile, regardless of whether they are in the 3rd seed or 4th seed or 5th seed like they were last year, the draft picks that they have at their disposal and the contracts that they have on their roster, in my view, they don't have a bad contract on their roster. All of their contracts that they have signed under Leon Rose, maybe with the exception of Evan Fournier, but that's now at the end, so it becomes tradable. All of those contracts are movable. They can play with this team and be competitive in the East, or when a star player becomes available, they can pivot and go after it. In fact, I think one of the challenges for the Knicks off the court over the next 12 to 18 months is to control themselves and wait for the player that they want to go all in for. They showed great discipline in not going crazy on the bidding for Donovan Mitchell last year. They ended up beating Donovan Mitchell in the playoffs. So this is what I think about the Knicks. They have the ability to greatly improve this team. And I know this has been said for the last decade, and I can't, make up.
Hold on, we got to stop right there. I know it's been said for the last decade. 37 and 37 and 45 the year before, 106 points per game. Last year they were 45 and 37. So an 8-game turnaround, scoring 10 more points a game with a points per game difference of 2.9. Playoffs, 6 playoff wins, of course. That's the major difference. We got out of the first round. But you see the optimism that he spoke with, Brian Windhorst, because that's all about, that's really what you want, man. You really want to have that's really a crazy freeze frame for him, right? Like, we have these players in position to play competitive, not complain about the contract situation. Should they get paid more? Emmanuel Quickley right now, that's what's up in arms about him, right? Damn, should he be getting paid more? It might be time for that. But all that is looming. Julius Randle, as much as I can complain about him, there's still light at the end of the tunnel. And Jaylen Brunson, for me, he's maybe more than half the reason why I'm optimistic about this team. And also to have him there, it's the same thing as like as to me, any other superstar being anywhere that provides the winning, he provides credibility for Leon Rose for having a vision, executing the vision thus far, and then having other players go, wait a minute, if he believed in him and he worked out, like we know Brunson is nice, but this is working in New York City. This has never worked in New York City. Boy, oh boy, if I go over there, damn, this might work. So what Brian Windhorst is pointing to is, hey, if we got a chance for a big-time player to come here, even if it's Embiid, I'm not a big fan of Embiid, but if you replace Randle with Embiid, Mitchell Robinson somehow with Embiid, some type of combination to replace him with, we're talking about an All-NBA MVP candidate added to this after a first-round win. That's major. And this is something, Embiid's a bad choice for me, bro, because he can't make it to the playoffs, man. But come on now. Let's see what let me finish up what Brian Windhorst is talking about.
The challenges for the Knicks are crazy. When I think about the Knicks, they have the ability to greatly improve this team. And I know this has been said for the last decade, and I can't make up or cover up all the times when they could have gotten star players and haven't gotten the deal done. That is true. But it is possible for them to be a good team and trade themselves into a great team.
Well, Malika, the purpose of this article that you're referencing and talking about was to promote the Sphere.
Yes.
And one could argue that the Sphere has been the best thing for the Knicks the last few years because it's created Dolan to distance himself, to focus on this project, to immerse himself, which allowed no nonsense, no distraction basketball.
What a great point. And look, I have an opinion about the women that are not reporting sports. Like, they're using their sex as power right now. Like, they're sexy as hell, all of them. There's a bunch of women who are just sexy and they show it off. Damn, what's my girl's name? I can't think of. She had the famous when she was sitting down with D Wade and she was just sitting upright and everybody was just like, yo, D Wade is trying his hardest not to look. I'm forgetting her name. She works for TNT. Bleacher Report. But Shanae, I don't know how to say her name, but I know it's Shanae. I think she's hot stuff, man. Let's not get, you see her with a dress on. Let's not get this twisted. I'll keep it 1,000 with you. But I think her and Joy Taylor are my favorite, I'm sorry to say, like, female sports analysts, but they're some of my favorite analysts in general. You just have to highlight that I think they're the best. She's very positive, Shanae. She's never really negative on people. So that's her angle. She's not salacious or anything like that. But look at this point she's making. Who talks about that? The Knicks are lucky that maybe this guy was distracted. That's like Steinbrenner in the 80s getting suspended, and now we're able to build our farm system. And, Steinbrenner had to keep his distance. Even though he loves stars, it's not necessarily the way to win. And Shanae is that's a great point, man.
Ball, no antics, no public situations between fans and the ownership. That made it more attractive. You just focused on hooping now. We didn't have all of those ancillary stories that emerged from ownership. And what happened? You got a no-nonsense coach. You got no-nonsense players. You got Jaylen Brunson. And to address your point, Zach Lowe, yes, Julius Randle has to take better steps towards his offense. But that guy is up there with the Iron Man every year. I know he was bummed out to miss out on the last few games, but he's usually on the floor for most, if not 99% of the NBA season. So that Sphere has been great. And lastly, I'll mention this, y'all. This segment has been wild. We got crocodile tears. We got eyebrows. We got, what was that, Zach? Like, I can't believe that. I can't believe that.
And then we found the happiest photo of James Dolan we could find just now. It's the biggest smile we could possibly get.
Shout out to
Look
our
how happy he
producer.
is.
Recordings just got better.
So, I appreciate what she said, Janae, there. I mean, she's, like I said, she does it with just being positive too. Like that's the thing for me, to be that positive about stuff. Is amazing. And of course, the Donovan Mitchell thing is looming. Like, that's still looming. He wants to come to New York, and Cleveland, they might have to entertain asking Mitchell, like, yo, if you want to leave, let us know what we can do to stay, because we can build a dynasty here. They might have to just entertain trading Darius Garland for Pascal Siakam to keep Donovan Mitchell, because you traded all those assets for Donovan Mitchell, and Kobe Altman, who's gotten into some trouble, president of basketball operations over, I think I was drunk driving in the offseason, right? I just did a Malika Andrews, by the way. Like, people hate Malika Andrews for doing that because she has to do her job and just present this stuff. But the ESPN, they always did this. They always presented somebody's bad side or whatever. But Kobe Altman, to me, he's been just phenomenal, closing deals, taking advantage when he can, to get Jared Allen from the Brooklyn Nets, to get Donovan Mitchell from the Utah Jazz, drafting Darius Garland. This is the post, Kyrie, LeBron James era. He's been able to rebuild them. He hired John Beilein, like one of the winningest college head coaches ever, helping change the culture over there. So, if I don't know, I'm talking about the Knicks right now, but he's Brooklyn born. That would be somebody, he can't come to the Knicks now. I think, I'm not totally satisfied with Leon Rose and them, but the Cavs are gonna have to have that conversation with Donovan Mitchell soon, because what's gonna happen when the time is ticking? What's his contract looking like? He's eligible for a 3. Oh, funny! I'm watching the video.
Barnes, who had such a
Your eye on.
Pascal Siakam. The Raptors are at some.
Mitchell had
I didn't even know they were
looking
talking about
at,
this.
because we're
Wow.
talking about some other teams, not necessarily where he ended up, the Cleveland Cavaliers. Zach, who do you have your eye on?
Pascal Siakam. The Raptors are at something of a crossroads, kind of straddling two paths at once. They're built to win a decent amount of games now. To Scotty Barnes, leave Pascal Siakam, who's 29 and eligible for a huge extension and is a 2-time All-NBA player. If the Raptors decide this season, or maybe going forward, that they have a chance to get a veteran star from another team one way or another, whoever that might be, then you probably want to keep Pascal Siakam around because you want to win today. If not, then a decision time is coming one way or another. There were trade rumblings earlier this offseason. Atlanta was mentioned a lot. Those have kind of died down. It's all quiet on the Siakam front right now, but that's a big bellwether for the Raptors and maybe the rest of the league.
All right, now it's time for us to go coast to coast.
Oh, well, they were talking about Donovan Mitchell first, though.
Process will be very important for the Cleveland Cavaliers, their fans, and potentially other teams out there who may be interested in making a trade for Donovan Mitchell at some point to listen to. My expectation is Donovan, who's a total pro, will handle this like he did in Utah, which was pledge his undying love to the Jazz, but also keep his options open. We'll see. That's going to be one of the big things to watch.
Some other.
Unlike.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. But if I'm Cleveland, you have to think about that. Knicks, I don't want Donovan Mitchell. I said it last year. Unless he's a free agent, you can add him on to this sort of rotation. I mean, that would be incredible as well, because that's so many plays that you have, in on the depth chart, and you're able to get rid of, RJ Barrett that way. But that's very tough. Donovan Mitchell, very, very ball dominant. Brunson's ball dominant. Julius Randle's ball dominant. So that's just tough. That would be tough. For that much money, I wouldn't want him on the team. But the Knicks are in position to get one of these big time free agents. I am excited about the front, like that. Those are the positives of the front office, and you know, we'll see. We'll definitely see. But I definitely wanted to talk about, you know, we respect Tibbs' basketball mind, Frank Isola, but I respect your basketball mind. That doesn't mean we can't disagree. That doesn't mean that, you know, I want you to be fired as a media member. I just think you're dead wrong about why I'm right about Tibbs not knowing what the hell he's doing with these rotations. But you know, that be that, said the cat. That was corny. Friendly fire, live and direct, Fabian Perspectv. Till next time.